You'll find our lowest car insurance quotes online, guaranteed.
Cloudy with rain along Atlantic coast. That'll spread inland overnight. Elsewhere, mainly dry with a few patches of mist and fog. Lowest temperatures of 9 to 14 degrees. And now you're up to date on News Talk.
The Football Show on Off the Ball.
With Paddy Power. Join the Save Our Shirt movement today. More at saveourshirt.co.uk.
I'm prepared to do anything I can to play my country again.
Do it then. What about your start to the game?
It wasn't bad, was it?
Why should an honest answer be a mistake?
How can a modern day manager not have a mobile phone?
Why should he?
Now then, you're welcome along to the Football Show. We will have some Brian Kerr for you later on. He was at Spurs 0, Newcastle 1 yesterday for us. We do have live commentary every Sunday now of the Premier League, and as we have done for years at this stage. And of course, more Dan McDonnell. Hello, Dan.
Hi, Joe. Again.
How are we doing?
Yeah.
So a few bits and pieces. You were watching new wonderkid at Barcelona against Real Betis last night. Ansu Fati at the age of 16, 298 days.
16.
Substitute. Yeah, he was born in October 2002, Dan.
God, what were you doing then, Joe?
Leaving cert.
Leaving cert in October. Oh, is your leaving cert year?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Still trying to get to grips with what had happened in Saipan, I suspect.
Yeah,
trying to get my little head around that.
You're still in school, still struggling. Oh, yes, of course, it would have been, Ireland-Switzerland, which is obviously next Thursday. Mm-hmm. The Ireland-Switzerland game that did for McCarthy, well, I mean, this was the writing was on the wall. But that was, I think it might have been October 2002. I think I vaguely recall watching it in the student bar in UCD. So there you go. But yeah, Barcelona, the good thing about Barcelona is that it was on ITV4. It's back on Irish TV screens, so not accessible to everyone, but accessible to quite a few people, I think now. So it was good to have Barcelona actually back on the telly because they were missing pretty much last year.
I'll come to that in a few moments' time. Brian Kerr will talk Spurs 0, Newcastle 1. We've already had Pat Nevin on the show. If you're one of those types that tunes into the radio at 9 o'clock to hear Pat Nevin on a Monday, we had him on at 7:30. Podcast listeners, you'll have just heard him. So Brian Kerr does talk FAI business as well as Spurs 0 and Newcastle 1. This was another Sunday Times. Well, there were various actually stories in the Sunday Times, but the one which made the front page of the main section concerned issues around the John Giles Foundation, I suppose is the best way to put it. FAI paid Giles Powell €300,000 for a walk idea. I appreciate there's probably lots of people who listen who haven't read this piece and are vaguely aware of it. So maybe just to tease through some of the main pieces of reporting, and then you can give your thoughts on it. FAI paid Giles Powell €300,000 for walk idea is the headline. In basic terms, the Powell they're talking about is Con Martin, who's a former League of Ireland player. The payments were made across 2011 to 2016, so about 60k a year over those 5 years. This was at a time, obviously, when there were pay cuts happening in the FAI initially. What seems to have happened here is, in so much as I can tell, because this piece raises questions as much as gives all the answers, I would say. That's my overriding sense from it. You come away with a number of queries and trying to extrapolate what exactly is what. So basically, it seems Con Martin said he signed a contract with the FAI in 2008. He had been running the John Giles Golf Classic for 8 years, and he says that Giles approved of him setting up a foundation that the FAI then bought from him, the foundation being the John Giles Foundation. And as part of all this, we would have seen from 2011 territory or so, there was a walk to raise money, the Walk of Dreams. So it's Con Martin's contention that he owns the copyright and the intellectual property when it comes to the Walk of Dreams and also the team kitwear idea, which proposed clubs combining their purchasing power to secure discounts. Now, in a board meeting, November 2016, an FAI board meeting, and really the basis of much of Mark Tighe's reporting over the last number of weeks and months has been minutes of various FAI board meetings. So at a board meeting in 2016, Martin said he had been told by John Giles that the FAI sold the Walk of Dreams concept to UEFA for €10 million. The FAI, by the way, did not respond to questions from the Sunday Times, and last night UEFA said that after an initial investigation it could find no record of the alleged agreement with the FAI, but that was Martin's understanding, courtesy of Giles, that this concept had been sold for 10 million. Now, his issue with the FAI is, as he puts it himself, I lost my head because I said that he, John Delaney, had the rights for the Republic of Ireland only, but that I had the copyright and the intellectual property for the rest of the world. That's Martin's understanding of the situation. Now, at this board meeting in 2016, the board was told that the end game, because initially it was queried, basically the €300,000 over these number of years was queried by the board. And the word from John Delaney was that stopping these payments would be, quote, hard to achieve. The board was told that the end game, quote, end game, was, quote, not giving Martin any more money, but, quote, this would be hard to achieve. And then Delaney said he was going to be meeting John Giles to discuss the issue, and we don't know what happened then. We don't know, did the €300,000 come courtesy of the FAI coffers or courtesy of the John Giles Foundation coffers? Again, this asks more questions than it does give answers. Obviously, it's fine reporting. That's not a criticism of the piece by any means. I'm just making the point that you come away not quite sure the full picture. So Martin confirmed this weekend he did get 60 payments of €5,000 between 2011 and 2016. And he said the payments were for the Giles Foundation, the Walk of Dreams, and a concept called Team Kitwear. And that's his understanding of how things have transpired. That's where we are. Your initial reaction to the piece, it's part of a drip, 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 drip situation.
Yeah, like, you know, that piece, as you mentioned, the Mark Tye and Paul Rowan piece, like, it would have been very, like, obviously carefully written. You know, as you mentioned, like, it does appear that leaked board minutes are the centrepiece of sort of the more recent stuff, you know, a lot of the very recent stuff. So, you know, those minutes, I suppose, speak for themselves, and people sort of have to pick through it. And as you mentioned, like, it's you can't necessarily just speculate about what this or that means, but there's a couple of things where you're like, well, it's imploring you to think about it and to consider it. You know, my broader point in this is that
you wrote about this today.
Yeah, my broader point in this would be that I wonder now with the public, to a degree, how much the detail even matters now. The detail is all important. Don't get me wrong. Every bit of detail is vital in terms of the history of this and for unpicking everything that's happened, and, you know, to learn or to get to the bottom of everything. That's vital. But I do wonder the extent to which the public now are just, well, here we go again. You know, it's another story, whatever about the subject matter, where on paper it's, you know, sums of money being paid by the FAI to an individual. And we've seen that pattern with a lot of stories that have come out over, you know, a payment to this person and that person. And this has coincided with a time when I think it's been pretty well documented over a long period of time that the FAI's finances were a period, you know, or a source of some concern. It was denied emphatically again and again by people from the FAI in official channels at AGMs and stuff. And even for FAI staff members, and I think even the most relevant reaction to a lot of this has been from people who've worked in the FAI and people who are involved with clubs who would have gone to meetings either as employees or as, you know, club officials or representatives, and they would have been told, well, no, your pay cuts can't be restored because of this, or you can't do this because of this, or you know, you prize money is this size because of this, and we can't afford any more. And then people see sort of eye-watering amounts of money appearing in a very unusual context that is broadly under the umbrella of the FAI. And I think that really, like, this is just devastating as it keeps happening in terms of what it's doing to the brand, I hate the term, but the brand and the reputation of the FAI. Because I think a lot of people now, I think if you walk down the street and just said to a lot of people, what comes to mind when you think of the FAI? And they will, I'm pretty sure a lot of them will have, oh yeah, you know the kind of response that you're going to get, but like, here we go again. Yeah. And I think that even, this is the problem now with and they've used the term themselves, so I'm not cutting it myself, but the new FAI it's almost been an attempt to portray the reform and the governance review reform of recent months as, well, this is the new FAI now, and there is a new board and a new structure. And I'm not saying there wasn't good stuff in those reforms, there is. You know, there are some important changes there that are good, but really you're just going to wonder, are they just fighting a losing battle here? They're fighting a losing battle with perception, because anything that comes out now is diminishing their attempts to move forward. And that's because there's a crossover of people and characters and personalities that are still there. And the perception of the FAI, like you kind of wonder, is it irreparably damaged? Like that was the point I made. Like this stuff is all, I mean, okay, what does this mean, right? But a couple of months back there was a suggestion that like would you nearly have to like go with a new name, a new logo, almost like a new entity. You know, obviously the complications with that in terms of, you know, your membership of associations, but you know, just to go for a complete rebrand and a new image. The OCI did it. They had to do it because the OCI was synonymous with something, and the FAI is now becoming synonymous with something to the same degree, with like massively negative connotations. And like it actually doesn't seem that mad and far-fetched now that you just wonder like that changes that are happening now under the umbrella of the FAI. Like on Thursday week, we're going to have a game against Switzerland in the Aviva Stadium, as sort of mentioned earlier, that, you know, this is like, you know, you get the programme, it's the FAI, it's, you know, it's the same organisation. It's some different people. Actually, some of the people I mentioned are still being paid by the FAI as well. So, like, John Delaney is still on the payroll of the FAI. So, I mean, that in itself is a massive, as much as the reviews are ongoing and we need to figure out what happened, and I understand that there's due process there, and I get all of that. Yeah. But it's impossible for the stench to lift. Yeah. While this information about the recent past just keeps coming out and coming out and coming out. And
it strikes me, unfortunately, I initially thought the rebrand idea was a bit unnecessary. So but as time goes on, I've come around to your way of thinking that actually the FAI, as you said, if you walk down the street now, represents one thing when you talk to people. I suppose the crucial difference between the OCI rebrand and where the FAI is that the OCI board was completely, I don't want to say they were all fired, because that wasn't the case, but we now have a completely new OCI board, and with the FAI we absolutely do not. We have Donald Conway in there still for another year against the wishes of the Minister for Sport. We have various other people still involved. Niall Quinn, there was a report in the Sunday Times Sports section yesterday, is disappointed that there are 8 internal appointments. He understood it was going to be 6 to the board.
Well, what's happened is that there's 8 people appointed to the board already, yeah, and there's 4 independent directors are going to join. Yeah. But because, for example, the 8 FAI people that were elected through FAI, the FAI parish as such, because they were all male, there's also, and this isn't necessarily representing Niall Quinn's position, but obviously the independent directorship candidate, they need to address the gender balance there, whereas the FAI hasn't addressed the gender balance within its own constituency as such, and just the process of portraying this as the brand new board it's slightly compromised under a number of headings.
The net point is this: with the OCI board and the rebrand, there was a clear out which coincided with the rebrand. There's no point the FAI changing its name now and all these characters still involved, because nobody will buy it. That's the difficulty they face.
I think I probably agree with you, yeah, I do, yeah.
I think a rebrand might work, but it has to coincide with
it's not just changing the name over the door. It's not just changing the name over the pub and going, here we go. Yeah. We're doing happy hours now. Like, you know, it's still in a place and it's associated with the place.
It's important to say that's what the OCI did.
Yeah. Yeah.
New board.
Yeah, it was a whole new thing, and I mean, listen, there's obvious. Again, that example isn't perfect because the FAI presides over a structure with all leagues and affiliates coming into it. The OCI wouldn't really have that. It's member associations, you know. So it's not a like for like, but it's just the concept of it is not at all far fetched now, because I mean, there are, as I said, and we say it again, there are good people in the FAI doing their best, trying to make things better, and for them this stuff is a killer, because, you know, they're coming out. And I don't think that the FAI have struck the right tone with some of the stuff in recent weeks and months, and with the AGM itself. And I can appreciate they've taken umbrage at some of the stuff from Shane Ross, and I agree with it, because I found some of the stuff from Shane Ross and the political interference a bit, you know,
it's grandstanding.
Yeah, it's not like you're not the face of reform either, right? I get that, but this whole sense of, well, you know, the football family, well, we're going to look after it ourselves and so on. I just don't think that's going to wash with the public.
Do you know what's also frustrating? So, like, there's this piece, say, for instance, in the Sunday Times yesterday, which looks on the face of it like there are legitimate questions to be answered. There's now even no expectation that the FAI might move to clarify anything the next day. Now, I know there are ongoing investigations, but, like, even the notion that the FAI might comment on this.
The fact that they can't, it emphasises their weakness, and it emphasises the extent to which they're paralysed by these reviews that are hanging over them. Wow. And they are, like, I can understand why they are bound by certain legal restrictions or legal advice when it comes to commenting on certain things. But at the same time, like, I just don't know how they expect this to go away. You know, do they expect that, you know, that the games will come around next week and there's a couple of good results and all of a sudden, no, like this is not something that's an easy fix. And I just think that the public perception of the FAI now, it's so damaged and the brand is probably so toxic that I find it very hard to see any form of light at the end of the tunnel in the foreseeable future.
Good, okay, we'll move on.
That's an uplifting thought.
Some of the results from the weekend then, Dan, we'll get your hot takes before we move on to Brian Kerr. We've had Pat Nevin on already. I watched a bit of Aston Villa Everton. I know you would have been on League of Ireland duty. Villa Park was just fantastic. It was really amazing. It's
a great venue. Have you been? I don't know if you've been.
No, but like...
I went when they were in the Championship.
Yeah, you hear great things about it. The red brick and under lights. You know, when Villa were getting relegated, it was a fairly miserable place for that season. The crowd did not like the team. The team were a bit nonplussed and not very good. Whereas on Friday, it was packed to the rafters. And Wesley, who'd been criticised in the opening couple of games, and people were wondering, is this guy good enough to score goals? It was really good.
Yeah.
Great movement. And you know, he did this, like, there's nothing more frustrating than a striker who doesn't hold the ball up and give his teammates a chance to get into the game. He was brilliant.
Yeah.
And scored his goal, took it really well. I was a bit disappointed with Everton. They just kind of ran out of ideas, actually, a little bit against Villa. You know, Schneiderlin was very off. Neves, their midfielder, or Gomez, rather. Sorry, Gomez. At one point, Carragher said, like, this is Gomez's brother, because he was just that bad. He just couldn't pass the ball. Villa sat in and just Everton struggled, just couldn't figure out what to do. But it was genuinely really enjoyable game.
But it's a great, like, I mean, I went to Villa a couple of times in the last couple of years when they were in the Championship, and even a couple of years ago when they were having a dreadful season at home to Reading, like 30,000 people still there when they were 17th in the Championship. And you know, it's one of those grounds that around it, a lot of old school, like it's still, the ground obviously hasn't moved, you know, so it's a lot of the old businesses around the ground are inextricably linked with the club, you know, a couple of the pubs and the clubs and the social clubs or whatever, you know, it's like fathers going with their sons to the game type of thing, and it's a real...
throwback.
The stadium has a bit more character to it than a lot of the more sanitised, the St Mary's of the world now that are all the same. You know, like it still has a bit of individual characteristics. So and we get it, and in that context, it's like great to have them back up. Probably better if Conor Harron was playing. I think from an Irish perspective, that's the only slight downside, that he started the season as first choice and hasn't played since. In terms of starting a match, but as a club generally, it's good to have them back.
Yeah. At Chelsea, we touched on with Pat Nevin. Tammy Abraham scoring goals was nice. Manchester United were so pedestrian. So I watched the Liverpool-Arsenal game, which was a really good game, and Liverpool looked great. You know, we touched on it with Pat earlier on, obviously, and then watched the, you know, Sky do a match of the day, hour-long highlights package of a game. They had the Man United Crystal Palace one on. It was the closest I've come to when you're flicking between two football games as to when you watch a hurling match and then flick over and watch GA afterwards. It's like someone just turned down the speed.
Different sport.
They're just so static. They all just kind of stand in the positions that they're named in. I know rotation is a bit of a buzzword. Whatever you want to use, movement. It's like you can spot the Manchester United formation almost within 20 seconds of watching any game.
In particular, that type of game, though. I mean, the thing was the whole theory, and it's pretty obvious. We're repeating, like stating the obvious, that this type of game was the test for them. Because actually, there was a moment, I don't know if in the second half, it might even have been leading to the penalty, where I think Palace were on the attack, and then Manchester United actually broke. I think it might have been leading to the penalty, and it was actually the one time where there was a bit of a chance for Manchester to use their speed on the counter and the break, and all of a sudden they looked decent because Palace had nearly got sucked out of their position as well. But otherwise, I think teams going to Old Trafford, and we've seen it over the last year or two, don't necessarily fear going there too much.
It's kind of
they actually know if you go there and you're disciplined and organised and stick to your plan, you'll get results, you'll get joy.
Well, there was a team that played them last year who had just come up from the Championship. I can't remember who had the quote, but absolutely, or else there was a player who'd played in the Championship and joined a new team, and they either got a draw or beat United, and he said afterwards, my teammates told me it'd be like this, that they'd move the ball really slowly and that we'd be fine. This was now the new perception, so it hasn't really changed. Liverpool-Arsenal, 3-1. Gary Neville's kind of point was that Arsenal, he's watched them there before and he's questioned their attitude, or he's felt they were incredibly naive in how they set up, whereas this was one of the first times in a while where he said, okay, it's just quality. It's not actually an attitude issue. He thought it was a good 3-1 win.
Like they had their moments. Like Pepe had that one break. Like, they had opportunities, but
it was a tactic. It was a limited enough tactic. It kind of shows maybe the gap between the teams, that we're literally just going to sacrifice the wings in the hope that we get a 2-on-2 and Pepe does something.
Yeah, because there was a feeling that they might go with the 3. They'd go with Pepe, Lacazette and Aubameyang, and they didn't do that because obviously they probably felt that would have been too bold.
Yeah.
So they were maybe caught in between two game plans and it left themselves open. I mean, Luiz did get himself, he's still, like, you can talk about what happened in the game and, analyse the gulf, but you also look at 2 big mistakes or 2 big incidents involving him, and that changes the perception of the scoreline completely. Yeah,
it does 100%. And then we're going to hear from Brian Kerr on Newcastle's win over Spurs. Wolves and Burnley drew 1-0, and Man City beat Bournemouth. Silva playing his 400th game. Graham Souness saying maybe he's the best Premier League player ever.
Best Premier League player?
It's stretching it for me.
It's only a stretch, but like he's in the top 20 though, isn't he?
Yeah, which sounds not very much, but then when you start listing out the top 20, it's an incredible list to be on.
Well, I suppose how many Man City players are in the top 20? How many of the recent Man City league winners? Aguero has to be in it. Companies probably has to be in it, and to me, De Bruyne probably has to be in it.
If De Bruyne does it, I feel like De Bruyne has to do it for another season or 2. There has to
maybe we should get the all-time list.
There has to be a touch of longevity about what you do.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, these are the criteria that I'm inventing for my top 20.
Yeah, it's important that we heard them, though. Yeah.
So, but I did want to. I guess people would have seen a lot of the Premier League. For people who didn't see Barcelona 5, Real Betis 2, talk to me here. Ansu Fati is the second youngest Premier League, or second youngest first team player in Barcelona's history. 298 days, so 16 and 298 days. Came through La Mesa. He was born in Guinea-Bissau in October 2002. Moved to Spain when he was kind of 6 or 7, and his father was saying he came over here age 6 or 7. I'd come over before. I didn't even know, because his father had moved first and then the family followed. I didn't even know he played football, is what he was saying to Spanish radio station. Everyone told me I had no idea how good my son was, that he ran rings around everyone. And then he arrived and Daddy realised this guy actually is very good. So he grew up in Seville and started with Sevilla. Word got out. Both Real Madrid and Barcelona come knocking, as they do, when he was 9. Real Madrid offered more money, but they chose Barcelona. They came to my house, Barcelona, they convinced me, and that's kind of how he's come through. So what have we got in our hands here?
Well, he only came on for the last 10-15 minutes. He's a winger. He's extremely quick. He was a right-sided...
Is he technically good by himself?
Yeah, he's a right winger who actually... he has a right foot, and so he's not cutting inside. So he actually
inverted winger.
He actually went outside at one point and drilled the ball wide of the post. He was great, changed pace. Now he was like. Are
you a get to the end line and whip it in type merchant?
You like the old school winger, don't you?
There's a simplicity
brings back the memories. But the one thing about this game, Messi and Suarez are injured, so they're in the stands watching it. So after every Barcelona goal, they're 1-0 down at half time. Or is 1-1 just before half-time, sorry. After every Barcelona goal, it goes to like Messi and Suarez watching on, applauding, their kids sort of climbing over them. But it was Griezmann's day in the sun here. This was like...
Did Suarez have his little kettle or his little flask of whatever he liked?
I don't know.
That's South American tea.
I'm not sure if he did. Okay. But the moment of this game for a lot of people was Griezmann. I don't know if you've seen this.
The glitter.
Yeah. So, I mean, like... so Griezmann, obviously, before the game.
This, by the way, is the thin end of the wedge. This is now... We are going to be talking about this moment in 2 years' time when this kind of stuff has taken off.
Well, I think we've seen guys who've scored a goal before. Like Balotelli had someone who recently had his phone for him. We should tell people what Griezmann did first, by the way.
Yes.
He scores the goal, he runs over to the corner flag, and someone is there who has basically been waiting for the game with some glitter.
Yeah.
Red and blue glitter that they give to Griezmann, who then takes it, throws it up in the air, and it drops down over him like he's a Top of the Pops frontman in the 80s.
The photos are good.
And it made for a great photograph. Yeah. And again, you are thinking that it's not the first game of the season, it's okay, it's a home match. I just want to know how the discussion happens with the glitter man.
Unbelievable.
Or who brings this up,
I presume the glitter man was at the other end for the other half.
I'm guessing he was.
Yeah, or maybe he's got 4 men in each corner.
I'm guessing he was. Maybe, I mean, no expense will be spared. Balotelli's one was he scored a goal and then he went on Instagram live afterwards.
That was good.
So he still had to go. I mean, he had to give someone his phone.
No joke getting 3G in the stadium either.
Yeah, but I'm guessing, did he give it to the guy with the passcode put in?
Oh, I'm sure there's a Wi-Fi.
Or did they take it off him? And no, but even his key.
Well, it mightn't have been his phone. He just might have logged into Balotelli's account.
They still would have had to have his Instagram open. I can't imagine Balotelli was there doing 1 second.
Trusted him
I should have capitalised that. You know, like there's still.
Unless it was Face ID, new phones.
It could have been that. Yeah.
Either way, what the general reaction to Griezmann's display is. The game is gone, and people of a certain age saying.
Yeah, but he also played well and did some brilliant stuff in the match. And there was a guy called Carlos Perez as well, who's come up from the B team, who he scored a classy goal as well. So there was some nice one-touch football from Barca, and this was they were beaten in the first game of the season, and they were 1 down. So there was you're thinking, oh God, this doesn't look fantastic here, but they still managed to turn it on for 20 minutes. Now Betis will figure out what the levels will be. Dermot Corrigan was on last week. There is question marks around this Barcelona team now, and obviously certain players are ageing, and they're trying to manage this transition. Do they need Neymar? All the stuff that's been part of the discussion over the winter or over the summer. Sorry,
A point Sid Lowe made, because I knew you were going to talk about this, and I didn't see the game. But he was talking about the various issues when you have Messi and Suarez and Griezmann in the same team, and where does everyone fit? And geez, if Neymar comes, where do you fit everything even more so? But he was saying, with Griezmann leading the line and with those two on the bench, he was saying, so what did they see? Well, he said they saw Barcelona press high and hard in a way they hadn't for months. They saw brilliant goals. And good news all over the pitch, not just Griezmann. Talked about Busquets and Sergi Roberto and Gerard Piqué playing very well. But the point was that Barcelona were able to press without Messi and Suarez in a way that they hadn't been with them. Now, I don't think Sid is suggesting that Messi or Suarez,
it's interesting
Messi
though,
in particular, are not worth their place in the Barcelona team. But there are limitations, and you do have to fit a game plan around them. And with Griezmann, they could just press hard. Yeah,
no, it's a good point. And they blitzed them after half time. It felt like Betis just didn't get their half for 15 minutes, and Barca scored 3 goals in that window.
Yeah.
So they were pretty dominant. But again, it's a home match for Barcelona in the Liga. All the caveats apply in terms of what this really says about them.
Okay. Our football coverage is brought to you with thanks to Paddy Power. For more information on responsible gambling, visit Dunlewy, DUNLEWEY.net. We'll bring you some of what Brian Kerr was saying to us yesterday in a moment.
Football on Off the Ball
with Paddy Power. Join the Save Our Shirt movement today. More at saveourshirt.co.uk.
Leo Cullen, Leinster head coach and RDS member.
The RDS has been a great home to Leinster rugby. It's a place that's close to my heart, with fond memories going back to childhood days at the Horse Show. When you walk into their RDS members club, you know you're part of a heritage that goes back nearly 300 years. It's just a very special place.
When you become an RDS member, there are benefits for Ireland as well as benefits for you. Find out more. Search RDS membership.
When you're planning your road journey, don't just stop at any service station. Stop at a Plaza Motorway service station. Now open in Kinnegad off the M6 and M4.
Thinking of a weekend getaway? Brace yourself for Belfast. Start your pulse racing with the rugged splendour of the Giant's Causeway. Relive truly epic battles on the official Game of Thrones tour. And then unwind at Clayton Hotel Belfast with a health and fitness club, pool and luxurious rooms from £95 B&B. Book now at claytonhotelbelfast.com. Terms and conditions apply.
So, the kids are back at school. They've done their homework. It's lush and rain outside. How do you keep them entertained? Easy. With the new extended gaming range at appliancesdelivered.ie. You mightn't know your Minecraft from your Grand Theft Auto, but Appliances Delivered has everything they need. From PlayStations, Nintendos and Xboxes to PC accessories and enough games to keep them quiet till Christmas. Well, a fortnight anyway. Boom! The new extended gaming range now available at appliancesdelivered.ie.
News Talk Breakfast.
Dahi O'Shea, I think I'm right in saying this is your 10th year presenting the annual event, so congratulations. What can we look forward to tonight?
Do you know what, Shane? We were going through the shows yesterday and the day before, and the shows are very, very busy. Lots of party pieces, lots of kind of crazy stuff inside there, so lots of things. Bit of pressure coming on me to wear a pair of kinky boots. We're still trying to work that out and to see if I'll be able to fit into them, and if I fit into them, can I actually get out of them in time?
I'm going to tune in just to watch that.
News Talk Breakfast
in association with AIR.
Weekday mornings at 7 on News Talk.
Have a great evening with itsforwomen.ie. Don't live your life on hold. Get a quote now at itsforwomen.ie and see why we're trusted by over 130,000 women in Ireland.
Off the Ball. This is News Talk.
Christian Atsu finds Joe Linton. Chance inside the area for Joe Linton, who scores! Well. Totally against the run of play. Newcastle have gone in front, and it's their number 9, Joe Linton, with his first goal for the club. One touch, and then he side-footed it past Hugo Lloris into the back of the net. It's Spurs 0, Newcastle 1, Joe Linton.
Now you're welcome back to the football show. Now we want to bring you some what Brian Kerr was saying to us yesterday. Specifically, we get into some FAI stuff. He was reacting to the Sunday Times piece Dan and I have just been discussing. But first, Brian was in North London for Newcastle beating Spurs. We do have live commentary of the Premier League every Sunday here in Off the Ball. He watched Newcastle beat Spurs 1-0. Here was his take on the game at full time.
Well, Spurs had 80% of possession in the match. We expected Spurs to dominate the game. Suggestions that Newcastle's morale wasn't in great shape after the first 2 matches of the season. Lost to Arsenal, lost to Norwich 3-1, 1-0 at home to Arsenal wasn't so bad. That can be put aside now. There was no problem with the morale or discipline of the team today, or clarity about their roles, or had the manager prepared them well or not. Suggestions otherwise during the week made looks foolish by this performance. Brilliantly disciplined, organised, well-drilled defensive performance, but also a threat and attack. Joe Linton, the new Brazilian centre-forward, took his goal superbly well, had a couple of other opportunities in the match, well helped by Atsu, particularly when he came on as sub on the left-hand side, and Almiron, the Paraguayan international right-hand side midfield, did a brilliant defensive job, but also got up and attack. Spurs just hadn't got enough today, didn't happen for them. Missing Dele Alli, session on the new player, and Dembele, the expensive midfield player that got the goal against Aston Villa, that got them back going that day. They won 3-1, couldn't find a way to the goal. I made very few chances today. Big decision was the Harry Kane foul. For me, it was a foul in the box by Lascelles. He started to stumble. He knew Kane was in, but he deliberately fell across on top of Kane, from my view of it. And Mike Dean, as the referees do now, they know they've a fail-safe that VAR's going to look at it anyway, so they don't make a decision. And he made no decision, just left it, waiting for the play to go on, went out for a throw in deep in the Spurs half, waited on the VAR to have a look at it and said no penalty. So not alone did he decide it wasn't a penalty, the VAR crowd decided it wasn't a penalty. For me, it was. One other chance late on for Kane, and he miskicked it, scuffed the shot, cut back from Sissoko. But overall, Newcastle deserved a brilliant defensive performance by them. It would have been one. I mean, you know, Nathan mentioned Benitez to me during the game, and it would have been a performance that the Benitez type team could pull off at time. But individually and collectively, they were excellent today. The whole back five, the work right in the middle with Hayden and Longstaff is exceptional, and the front fellas did well. Goalkeeper was rarely troubled in the match. Spurs had an off day by the standards that they'll expect here at this magnificent stadium.
So Mike Dean waves play on for the penalty and then doesn't go over to the touchline to look at the monitor. The Premier League and various dispatches have said they want to get away from that, the idea of the referee running over to look at a camera pitch side. So Anthony Taylor made the decision. We're quickly approaching the point where the referee is far less important than the man on VAR. He's now making all the key decisions in the game.
Yeah, it seems to be the way. I mean, every goal is looked at by VAR to see what was there any error that the referee didn't see. I mean, and the one last week with Manchester City and Spurs was the extreme on it, when there was you would have to look at it. It was maybe about the fourth time I look at it that I saw that it might have hit off the Manchester City's player arm, and it was between Skip and I wasn't sure whether it hit the Spurs player or the Manchester City player, and it broke, and Jesus did his stuff and did his trick and turned and shot it into net. There wasn't one Spurs player that appealed for a handball, but VAR found a way to disallow the goal. I think that was extreme. That was, and now, as I said to you, Mike Dean didn't make a decision today. He didn't even, Mike Dean, where he can often be very demonstrative and waves his arms and that sort of stuff when he's definite about the decision. He didn't do anything when the incident happened between Lascelles and Harry Kane. He just let the play go on. and waited knowing. So that's the way it's gone now for referees. Michael Oliver, the best referee, would be the same. He'd go, well, I don't have to make a decision when it's in the box anymore. I can just do nothing and wait on the lads to tell me whether it's a penalty or not. And that's how it's gone. But look, I don't know many angles they saw it from later on, but any angle I saw it from today, I thought it was a penalty kick. And I think Mike Dean, if he hadn't got far, I think he would have given a penalty. I think he was relying on them to make it, and and as you said, they have an instruction now not to go and have a look at it unless they have to.
Yeah.
So there you go. But look, at Newcastle deserved it. We're once they were good winners, but
well organised,
disciplined, and brilliant when they got their opportunity.
If you were to be brutal about it, would you look at Spurs now and say Pochettino has definitely taken this team as far as he's ever going to take them? Certainly in league terms, they might win a European Cup, I appreciate, but in general terms, are they progressing really under Pochettino now? He's done such a good job thus far.
I think we'll have to wait and see how the season settles down and the influence of Ndombele when he gets playing regularly, and Lo Celso when he comes into the team, and whether I think Sessegnon might be an improvement if he gets into the team in the full back position. Has he taken as far as he can? I don't think so. I think he can continue. I mean, it'll be a difficult one, and one of the reasons he may have left out Eriksen today and in the first game was probably to say, well, we've got to get on with it. If we're not going to have him, we might as well get used to it, and the supporters might as well get used to us not having him. So we've got to play other players and let them take on the mantle and do the things, and let the team be as effective. Not like, say, the Chelsea scene where everyone's saying, well, Eden Hazard goes, going to fall apart. Spurs have kind of seemed to be already adapted to the point of view where Eriksen's not going to be there, but I think he can still move this team on and bring them closer to Liverpool, remembering the finance. A lot of finance has gone into the stadium and the preparations for the stadium over the last few years. They've gone and thrown a few quid at it, getting Ndombele for up around whatever it was, 60 or 70 million, not too much. Lo Celso was a lone player, Sessegnon relatively cheap, not too much overspending there. Would have reaped a few quid back from the few sales. Janssen, they got decent money, I think 8 million from the Mexican team, Trippier 20 million, so they got a few quid back along the way, so they haven't spent, but you know, they're a long way short of the quality Liverpool and particularly Manchester City have, and the options they have, and there seems to be an acceptance that they're going to sell a couple of players, or at least one or two players, before the window closes, which will again leave the squad quite tight, and the squad was tight last year. That's why the league form, they couldn't handle the European thing in the league form and end up losing 13 matches in the league, 20 matches altogether in the season. The squad wasn't good enough, and their over-reliance on the likes of Llorente and Janssen even coming in at times was even Nkudo, who would have got off the books as well to Besiktas now, and they let Dembele go last year. I think they'll be short again, but they're good enough to be in the top four.
Before you go, the FAI, not for the first or I suspect last time, is on the front pages of the news section. So the Sunday Times had the story once again, Mark Tighe and Paul Rowan. The headline, I appreciate there's lots of people who won't have even looked at papers today. FAI paid Giles Powell €300,000 for walk idea, is the headline. To try and sum this up for people, and then I'll get your thoughts. Basically, the FAI have paid Con Martin, he's a former League of Ireland player, about 60 grand a year, it seems, between 2011 and 2016. The issue, it seems, is that since 2016, Martin's been threatening to sue the FAI for further monies he alleges the association owe him. Basically, it's his contention that he owns the intellectual property rights and the copyright for this idea that he came up with, which was through the John Giles Foundation, the Walk of Dreams, a concept, he says, as well, team kitwear, which combined all the club's purchasing power to secure discounts. And so he signed a contract with the FAI in 2008 originally because he had run the John Giles Golf Classic for 8 years. Giles approved of him setting up the foundation. The FAI bought the foundation from Con Martin. So November 2016, there's an FAI board meeting. Martin says, and this is people talking at the board meeting, that Martin said he had been told by John Giles that the FAI had sold his Walk of Dreams concept to UEFA for €10 million, which is a hell of a price. I think everybody agrees for this concept. Now, at the very end of the piece, they say last night UEFA said that after an initial investigation, it couldn't find any record of this alleged agreement with the FAI. We're not sure if that 10 million's appeared anywhere in the accounts. You suspect it would have. caused a news story if it had before, but UEFA say they've no record of it. Con Martin's point is that I lost my head, he says, because I said that Delaney had the rights for Republic of Ireland only, but I had the intellectual property for the rest of the world. And then finally, to wrap up, the board, back in November 2016, with all this going on, was told that the end game was to not give Martin any more money, but according to John Delaney, this would be hard to achieve, and he was going to meet John Giles to discuss the issue. We don't know where that went or where that meeting went, and Con Martin says he may well still bring a case against them. But he was given 300 grand over those 5 years for the idea. I mean, has this 10 million euro from UEFA happened or not happened? I don't fully know. The John Giles Foundation, obviously under increased scrutiny now, Brian, you would have to say. So, yeah. I mean, here we go again, the latest in this drip effect.
Well, a couple of things occurred to me. I don't know what Con Martin, and I know Con going back, he was a great football man, a great football family. Mick was a brilliant international player, and his dad and all that. And I know Con, I actually managed Con in a sense, and he played in the reserve team at Shelbourne at one time. I know him going back, and he did at one time approach me about some of these ideas, concepts as they're referred to. One of them, he didn't want me to start a foundation, mind you. It was in relation to the idea of the kit purchasing and how that could be an effective saving of finance for clubs. But this idea that Con, from what I read, understood that he owned the rights to the idea of having a walk, right? That seems a strange one to me. I heard your conversation earlier on with Kieran Cunningham and Kieran O'Reilly, and I agreed with what Ed says. That sounds, it sounds slightly illogical to me that anyone could own the concept of the idea of using, like, sponsored walks have been around since nearly I was in school, right? So how anyone would own the property intellectual rights to that and try to sell it to UEFA for 10 million, I don't understand that. But needless to say, we're unlikely to get an explanation or a clear or honest or straight explanation on that from people in the FAI in the immediate term, because while all these investigations are going on, we're not really getting any information from them now.
Once again they refuse to comment.
So, but that sounds like but you said in there somewhere that there was minutes, quote in the minutes, that John Delaney seemed to be admitting that Con was due other money other than the 60,000 a year he was getting for organising some events, right? So that was obviously contractually he was entitled to that. It seems like a lot of money, but they must have agreed that he was going to do certain responsibilities and make them happen in order to be justified. So until we get some detail of what the rest of it was, but it does appear from the quote you said from the minutes that what the object seemed to be that not to pay Con any more money,
that's the end game.
But John Delaney may have said
we have to.
So there was some
hard
other
to achieve. Hard to achieve,
not paying. So it appears like there may have been some other contract or obligation in place, and it just appears to be another one of these things that not too many people knew about, but that he knew about. I know John Giles' name was mentioned in the headline on it, and I think that's a bit unfortunate given John's contribution to the game. And I would think from the start the objective was honest and sincere in the idea of trying to help clubs raise money. From the start, in the first year, it was suggested that I saw the figure of 360 was raised. I don't know how much of that actually went back to the clubs, or whether Con's 60 grand a year came from that or came from the FAI, and that's what people who operate in the clubs will want to know. Did the money they raised help to pay Con his annual fee or whatever it was? People be interested in that, and perhaps John might be able to explain that when I think he'll have his piece during the week with Nathan Thursday night. But I know he's discussed this already in the past. I don't think Con Martin's name has come into those previous discussions. So maybe John can help people out. But I'm sure there was no intent on his part to mislead people or to misdirect any of the fundraising that he was involved in, that he wanted to see going towards the grassroots of the game. That's what I would say on that.
Yeah, the frustration is this piece just provokes more questions than answers, as you said, around the nature of the agreement. Did UEFA give 10? It's ludicrous that we have to actually say, did UEFA give us 10 million?
Well, perhaps, the current, whatever his title, I think is General Manager, Noel Mooney in the FAI, who works for UEFA, maybe he'll be able to come up with an answer, because he seems to be very, very well up in the rankings or in connections in UEFA. We're not going to get a statement from John Delaney, I would think, but maybe Noel Mooney, who seems to be riding two horses at the moment, the FAI horse and the UEFA horse, he might be able to come up with an answer on that one. Can he find out fairly quickly from his sources in UEFA, did we get another 10 million for something else that we were surprised to hear? We were surprised to hear we got 5 million for not being the 33rd team at the World Cup. So did we get another 10 million for presenting the idea of having a walk all around Europe for fundraising for clubs? I mean,
it's hard to know if we've done better out of the 5 million for handball or 10 million for a walk at this rate. I mean, Jesus, it's just. I mean, look, I think we're both in agreement. They need to come out and make this as clear as day, as quickly as possible.
But that has not been done. The situation continues on at the moment, where the other piece that was in the Times, one of the, I think it was 4 pieces, one about where Niall Quinn is. The report was that Niall wasn't interested in going forward as one of the 4 independent directors. That he's annoyed at the idea of 8 in-house people are still in-house, and that the president will be interviewing the people who are going to be the independent people, even though he's only temporary. And in most people's opinion, including mine, he should be well gone by now himself.
And the Minister for Sport's opinion.
He's going to be part of the recruitment of those 4 independent people, and also the Football Management Committee, which was supposed to be the group who are going to have the biggest influence on changes on the football side of the game, as we believe it. He is going to be the chairman of that group, and the vice president is going to be also on that group, on the Football Management. The Football Management Committee, as I understand it, will be composed of 8 insiders in the FAI and 3 independent people, if those 8 deem it's necessary. Only if they deem it, those 8 inside people deem it. And that, to me, is totally illogical. That Football Management Committee there should be football expertise on that. Either football expertise on the administration side at a serious level. I don't mean FAI people that have worked in the AOL, Leinster Senior League, Munster Senior League, or a League of Ireland club. I mean someone who has worked at a serious level, or management at senior level of a senior professional club at a high level, or coached at a high level, or played at a high level. Not a gang of the same as we had before of administrators who do great work organising fixtures and referees and match cards and disciplinary committees and all that stuff, but don't have the insight or the vision or the knowledge to put a new shape on the game for the future in Ireland on a football level. Let the other gang, their board and the people around that, do the business administration, all the ethical stuff that need to be dealt with under the report and Aidan Morden's report. But the football side needs real attention, that the correct football decisions are made, not the mad one that they come up with, or that John Delaney or whoever come up with, to give Mick McCarthy the job on a temporary basis and name his successor, brilliant and all as Stephen Kenny may be as the manager in the future and has been as a League of Ireland manager in the past, name his successor before the first fella, Mick McCarthy, started in the job. I mean, that was a ludicrous decision, and a proper football people at the top of it would not have made that decision.
Yeah. Right, we won't let it ruin our Sunday evening. I'll let you go. Thanks very much for that, appreciate it.
Pleasure, Joe. Great stuff, thank you.
And there you have it, Brian Kerr speaking to us yesterday evening. He was at Newcastle 1, Spurs 0 for us yesterday. Back in a sec.
kids are back at school.